Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 23rd of April, now it's 11:30, middle of the day by Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my channel in which I share latest updates on the news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There are quite a few very significant developments and news that I like to share with you, but before I start, let me make one little announcement. From tomorrow, from 24th of April, I will start making not just update for YouTube, but also update for Patreon page for Patreon subscribers. So in the first half of a day, I do what I usually do. I will make update on YouTube, and in the afternoon I will make second update with all the additional information that Russian media report during the day, and the second update will be on uploaded for Patreon. This way I hope I will generate enough interest among our community so that I will have a little bit more subscribers on Patreon, which is very important because after all we all are living in real life, and this channel is taking almost all day from me. I have to go through news, choose some news that you may find interesting, then record this video, upload this video, then be active in comment section, answer on mail. Same time I have to be active on some other channels also to somehow promote my channel, and basically from early morning to late afternoon I'm always next to computer, and to continue work for this channel, to develop this channel. I do need some support. I hate to talk about this topic, but that's life really, and in previous few weeks I did denied few offers from Russian media outlets, because if I take those jobs I will have no time left to work for my channels. So I mean, I have to somehow deal with this whole situation, and yes, I hope updates, regular everyday updates on Patreon will be interesting enough so that some of you may consider to subscribe on my Patreon channel. You will see links under this video in the description box, and in the foreseeable future I will probably, to generate more content for Patreon, I will probably start making videos in a vlog style, and I will share with you just footage from just everyday life, so it will be not just about news and politics. So let's see how it will go. I don't really know what to do, guys. As you can see, I don't have advertise on my channel, and YouTube is not monetizing Russian channels also, so you know, I have to come up some ideas, man, and that's probably best one that I can do right now, to make one update in the morning by Moscow time for YouTube, and the second update with additional information in the afternoon for Patreon. I hope it will works. So that's been said, let's talk about news now, and I will start with Ukrainian special military operation. So this is RIA Novosti's report, according to which Russian side PMC Wagner units did manage to establish additional control over the 3 more blocks in Artyomovsk, which is Bakhmut. So if we take a look on the map, this pro-Ukrainian map of course will not acknowledge this success of Russian side, at least next few days. But I believe this area here, this northern area, and also this area next to train station from the eastern part is under Russian control now, and during the today or maybe tomorrow, probably Russian side from eastern part and northern part will establish full control over this base also, and eventually they will reach PMC Wagner units that are conducting operations in direction of Khramova. And this way, under control of Zelensky's regime, will be left only this small part on the southwest part of the Bakhmut. Yet again, as you know, during the previous days, there were reports that Russian side did establish direct control over the road that connects, country road that connects Bakhmut with Khramova and then with Chisov Yar. And even though Ukrainian side did try to deny this information, Russian side, time after time, did said that this road is under Russian control, and if Bakhmut garrison wants to retreat, they will have to do it by their foot through these fields, which is not going to be a safe journey for sure, because entire this area is under full Russian artillery control. When it comes to overall situation on the front line, it's the usual stuff. Kherson region and Zaporozhye region mainly, it's artillery duels. Donetsk direction, as usually, is active, especially Marinka and Avdiivka directions, Bakhmut, of course, and the direction of Seversk. When it comes to artillery duels, we had the information that yesterday Russian side did strike large formations of Zelensky's military personnel that are still loyal to Zelensky's regime in Konstantinovka and Kramatorsk. Also, during the nighttime, Russian side did conduct drone strikes in Kharkiv direction, and I did share on my Telegram channel photo and video confirmation that these drone strikes were successful, because it's some huge eruptions and huge fires on the place that they were targeting. So probably some ammunition depots or fuel depots were hit in that direction. But same time, yesterday afternoon, we had information that Zelensky's regime did conduct drone strike on Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. As crazy as it sounds, but Zelensky's regime is continuing to conduct such terrorist actions against Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. And according to Russian media outlets, building where one of the turbines are based was slightly damaged, nothing critical. But when we are talking about nuclear power plant, it's always serious. It's just always serious, and these kind of strikes from Zelensky's regime once again highlights what kind of regime that is really, and what kind of attitude they have towards civilians. Because if anything happens to nuclear power plant, no one is safe. No one is safe on entire European continent, and maybe even further than that. We should always remember that Zaporozhye nuclear power plant is the biggest power plant in Europe, maybe in the world. Definitely one of the biggest in the world. So let's continue with some other news, and we have TASS News Agency's report, which is based on statements from Yevgeny Prigozhin, head of PMC Wagner. And yesterday afternoon, all the media outlets were reporting that Prigozhin did address to make statements towards head of Ukrainian ground forces, Syrsky, and he basically called Syrsky to save lives of Ukrainian soldiers and don't send them in direction of Bakhmut, in direction of this meat grinder, as many are calling this area. And in this statement, Prigozhin did mention that Ukrainian side already has issues in its armed forces, because according to information that PMC Wagner has, there were some riots. There were some riots in Chisov and Konstantinovka among Ukrainian military personnel. Some units, entire units, they dropped their weapons and just walk away. So I believe I did predicted that something like that will happen. And yes, it seems like we are seeing beginning of the collapse of Ukrainian armed forces. It will not happen in a day or two, but as I understand, many, especially many forcefully mobilized soldiers in Ukrainian army are fed up with this conflict and fed up with the unhuman attitude towards them and their life from Zelensky's regime, and they are just leaving positions. Even though Zelensky's regime will probably try to catch them all and, at least threaten, or in worst case scenario, they can be killed. But still, they want to take their chances, because they know if they will be sent to Bakhmut direction, this will be a one-way ticket. So basically, we are seeing a beginning of the end of Ukrainian armed forces as a whole. And same time, by the way, in Kryvyi Rog yesterday, and I did share video and photo material about this on my Telegram channel. Yesterday in Kryvyi Rog, there were some demonstrations from civilians against military and political leadership of Ukraine, and they were demanding that their family members won't be sent in direction of Bakhmut, and basically they were protesting that Zelensky's regime is not taking care of lives of military personnel. They just don't care how many soldiers will die. They're using soldiers as just cannon fodder, cannon meat. That's how in Russians, in Russian language, this is said, пушечное мясо. So yes, the Zelensky's regime definitely using its military as a cannon meat. So we did see also not just beginning of the collapse of Ukrainian armed forces, but beginning of protest movement among civilians in Ukraine. And if this kind of protest actions, and it was quite a large crowd, you can see this on photo and video materials on my Telegram channel. So Kryvyi Rog is just the beginning. We had some protests from civilians in western parts of Ukraine, especially in Transcarpathia region, where ethnic Hungarians are living. And now we are seeing protests among civilians in eastern and central parts of Ukraine, and this will continue. This will definitely continue, especially after PMC Wagner units will establish full control over the Bakhmut. And it will not take too long now. It's a matter of days, hours, days. Let's continue, and this is RIA Novosti's report, according to which, and this report is based on statement from official from Zaporozhye region, Vladimir Rogov. So according to him, Zelensky's regime is concentrating heavy military equipment in Zaporozhye region, and according to Rogov, and let me show you Zaporozhye region. So this is, by the way, Zaporozhye region here, and according to Rogov, Zelensky's regime is using some industrial facilities to hide the military equipment in Orekhov, that's Orekhov here, and the surrounding areas. Also in Zaporozhye itself, in the city. And this is, of course, in preparation to conduct anticipated by many counteroffensive in direction of Azov Sea. But yet again, As time goes by, I have more and more doubts that Zelensky's regime will be able to conduct a large-scale counteroffensive, because they lack manpower, they lack military equipment, and no matter how many weapons Western elites will send to Zelensky's regime, without military personnel, these weapons will do nothing. So that's why I have some doubts that there will be large-scale counteroffensive of Zelensky's regime. They will try to do something, definitely, because Washington and London is demanding from Zelensky's regime actions, especially in direction of Azov Sea, but they will definitely be unsuccessful. And once this so-called counteroffensive will be repealed, and once this last remainings of more or less battle-ready Ukrainian brigades will be destroyed, then it will be Russian turn to conduct offensive operations, and probably we will fairly soon see that Russian side will establish control over the Zaporozhye city itself. Russian side will return in Kherson, on right bank of Kherson, and even go further than that. Basically, Russian side will become unstoppable at that point. Because, as I said, Zelensky's regime don't really have reserves, and once this so-called counteroffensive will fail and Russian side will go on offensive, at that point, as I said many times in previous updates, at that point probably we will see open introduction of Polish militaries to this conflict, and only question is what Warsaw will do. They will try to establish control over some western parts of Ukraine, or they will go much more deep inside Ukraine towards front line. And yes, if they will decide to stay on the western part, probably this way Warsaw will somehow manage to avoid direct confrontation with Russian forces. But that will happen about 2 months from now, before end of the summer. So we will probably have more information for that time, and it will be easier to predict possible movements of sides. Let's continue now, and once again, this is a statement from Vladimir Rogov, official from Zaporozhye region, and he did said that Russian side shut down more than 70 drones in Zaporozhye, in vicinity of Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. So this yesterday's strike was, of course, not some accident or some one single operation that Zelensky's regime did conduct towards Zaporozhye power plant. No, they are constantly shelling Zaporozhye nuclear power plant and constantly sending drones, strike drones in that direction. And as you can see, Russia side did manage to shut down 70 drones, man. And when we are talking about nuclear power plant, for God's sake, man, it's hard to believe, but that's what Zelensky's regime is doing, and they are targeting nuclear power plant. So next news is that Zelensky's regime did conduct artillery strikes in direction of Novaya Kakhovka. Yet again, this is in preparation of upcoming so-called counteroffensive. This is Novaya Kakhovka, by the way, and this town here. And this direction is very important for Zelensky's regime because of this dam. This dam is the only way to move heavy equipment from one side to another, because other bridges are destroyed in this area to cross the Dnieper river. So I did predicted that Zelensky's regime will become more and more active in the direction of Novaya Kakhovka, and that's what exactly is happening. No surprises there, but I believe Russian side is ready to repeal any possible counteroffensive of Zelensky's regime in any direction. So next news is from RIA Novosti, according to which Russian air forces did manage to destroy two DRGs of Zelensky's regime in Kharkov direction. DRG is диверсионно-разведывательная группа. That's a sabotage, recon and sabotage groups, basically, of Zelensky's regime. So as you can see, Russian frontline aviation is more and more active in last, let's say, month. Also, and this is quite good indicator that Kiev, Zelensky's regime, don't really have enough air defense systems now to control sky in close to areas of front line, and that's why Russian aviation is managing to do some more and more damage to forces that are still loyal to Zelensky's regime. And yes, this is also interesting. RIA Novosti's report here about statements that Hersh made. Seymour Hersh, award-winning US journalist, probably most decorated journalist in our, one of the most decorated journalists in our lifetime. So Seymour Hersh did write that Zelensky's regime is selling Western military equipment, Western weapons on the black market. Russian side did talk about this topic many times before, but now we are seeing that even such a famous journalist that and respectful journalist that Seymour Hersh is writing about it. I believe he has information from US Secret Services or Pentagon, because he's never writing anything without proper confirmations. So yes, he is writing that Ukrainian side is selling weapons on the black market, and this is done not just on the top level, but some on the level of colonels. There are some situations when generals not even involved. Some colonels or even low-ranking officers of Zelensky's regime are receiving Western weapons, and they are selling those weapons on the black market straight away. And especially Hersh is writing about manpads, because it's a very dangerous weapon. If it can shut down military plane or helicopter, it definitely can shut down civilian plane. And I don't know, maybe US Secret Services do know how many Stinger, let's say, manpads did Zelensky's regime sell on black markets and to whom. But I believe European states, secret services of European states are on high alert to make sure that their civilian airports are safe and secure, because who knows who has now these extremely dangerous weapons on its hands, which terrorist or criminal organizations. And according to this article, a large, quite significant amount of weapons that Zelensky's regime did sold on the black market went to Europe. Not to Africa or Middle East, but to Europe. So this is a very dangerous development and very serious development. And it was predictable. It was predictable that this will happen, because, I mean, US and the Western elites were delivering not just money, hundreds of billions, but also weapons, extremely dangerous weapons, to most corrupt regime in Europe. So what else you gonna expect? Let's continue, and this is also interesting news. TASS news agency is reporting that Deripaska, one of the Russian oligarchs and multi-billionaires, Oleg Deripaska, did make statement that he thinks in the next 5 years dollar as a main reserve currency will be finished. So probably, I mean, it's hard to argue with this statement of Deripaska because we are seeing almost on daily basis now that more and more countries are willing to trade in national currencies, and more countries are distancing themselves from dollar and euro, because Brussels and Washington did use their currencies as a weapon against Russia, and not just against Russia, by the way, but it was, maybe world was not paying enough attention when Western elites did use their currency as a weapon against Iran, for example, or Syria, or Libya, or some other countries. But when they use this weapon against Russia, world did start to paying attention, and they are now distancing themselves because they know if they can do it to Russia, they can do it to any other country, just any other country in this world. And yes, Deripaska, I don't know, I cannot predict how long it will take, 5 years or 10 years or 15, but it seems like dollar will eventually definitely lose its status as a main reserve currency in this world, and this trend is unstoppable now, and all this done by Biden's administration. And that's why I'm saying that Biden and his henchmen probably damage US and US interests more than any other president in US history. And US did has some quite bad leaders, let's say politely this way, Let's continue now, and this is TASS news agency, according to which G7 countries, ministers of agriculture sector of G7 countries did made statements in support of prolonging grain deal. When it comes to grain deal, as you know, Russian side did make statements month and a half ago that they are prolonging grain deal for 3 months, but it's possible that Moscow will not prolong this deal anymore, and all the countries that are in need will receive grain from Russia for free. So this way, Moscow will not allow Western elites to use Moscow's denial to prolong grain deal as a propaganda tool against Russia. Russia will deliver grain directly to countries that are in need. And as you know, I did report yesterday that Russia already prepared 2 packages of free deliveries of fertilizers to Kenya and Nigeria, I believe. So maybe G7 countries want to prolong this grain deal, but Moscow may say no. And all the countries that are in need will receive grain from Russia for free. This is TASS news agency's report, according to which Germany, as you know, yesterday there was some diplomatic scandal between Germany and Russia. I mean, the relationships between 2 countries are so much damaged that nothing is surprising anymore. But still, current leadership of Germany is trying to make some, on daily basis, make some anti-Russian moves, and they come up with the idea to expel dozens of Russian diplomats from Germany, and the Russian side did respond exactly the same way. And according to Bild media outlet, Russia will expel 34 in retaliation, let's say, Russia will expel 34 German diplomats from Russia. So okay, I mean, Berlin can continue this path, man, of escalating with Russia. Nothing good will come up for Germany from this, but yet again, it's up to German society to decide what kind of leaders they have. If they choose these ones that they have now, Baerbock and Scholz and the rest of them, I mean, they should be ready for consequences. I don't know. So this is quite interesting news because Turkey did made yet another head of Turkish Interior Ministry did made yet another quite strong statement towards USA, and he said that Süleyman Soylu, that's Minister of Turkish Interior Ministry, he said that US did create terrorist state next to Turkey. Of course, in this case, Turkish official is talking about Kurdish enclaves in exclaves in Iraq and in Syria. US is a major supporter of Kurdish forces in those areas, and as you know, Turkey did declare Kurdish organizations, Kurdish People's Party, for example, that has a military wing as a terrorist organization. And from Turkish point of view, you can definitely understand Süleyman Soylu is coming from. But yet again, I mean, these strong statements towards USA right before presidential elections in Turkey, which will be, which will take place in May. I don't know, and maybe Erdogan and his government is truly preparing for some disturbances in Turkey that will be created by US and some European states in attempt to, provoke regime change in Turkey. Because, I mean, lately from Ankara we are hearing some truly strong statements towards Western elites. Let's continue now, and this is Artist's report. Probably many of you are familiar with this story, and I want to share also US Democrats are threatening US journalist Matt Taibbi. He is a great journalist, by the way. He was working on Twitter files recently, and he was threatened by US Democrats with arrest, man. And the same Democrats, so-called Democrats, will talk about democracy and freedoms and freedom of speech, man. And they are threatening U.S. journalist Matt Taibbi with arrest because they are not happy with him. And this journalist, by the way, we all I know this his works little bit. But I do know who this journalist is, and he's not in any way right-wing. He is a left-wing journalist, but in my opinion. But still, he is a journalist. He is a professional, and he is doing great work to inform society. That's what journalists should do. And but still, these so-called Democrats are not happy with him because Matt Taibbi did reveal that Democrats were actively pressing Twitter to suppress some information, to censor basically, to suppress information about Biden's corrupt family and many other topics, and to suppress conservative opinion on Twitter. And that's what Twitter was doing before Elon Musk take over this corrupt social network. Now Twitter probably is better, and I may even start I may even become active on Twitter. Maybe, I don't know. But yes, that's current US, man. That's level of democracy in US. They are threatening independent journalists, man. Just because they are doing their work, informing society. So this is next news is from Ria Novosti, according to which Russian side did begin preparations for a victory parade, which will take place in Moscow on 9th of May. So I think we will go. Me and my family, we will go to Moscow on that day because it's a great celebration. It's a victory day, and it means a lot to all of us. And not just in Russia, but on entire territory of former Soviet Union. Exception can be Baltic states and current Ukraine, because current Ukraine is in current Ukraine heroes are Banderas and some other Nazi criminals, but rest of the former Soviet Union definitely is celebrating 9th of May as a great day of victory of Soviet people over the Nazism and fascism. So it's nice to see that Russian side will conduct this parade on 9th of May. This is one more, one more indicator of stability in countries. So because of that, I do support. I do understand that there may be some opposition, that its military operation is going on in Ukraine and maybe it's not time to conduct some parades and celebrations, but no. Society needs reassurance of stability, and celebration of 9th of May, Victory Day, is one of the steps in this direction to reassure society that country is strong and situation is stable. This is Ria Novosti report, according to which Venezuelan government did calculated damage that was done by US sanctions, illegal sanctions against Venezuela. And according to this report, according to Caracas, Venezuela lost $230 billion as a result of US sanctions, which is a huge amount for any country, really, and especially for Venezuela, especially for relatively small countries. That's what US does, man. US elites, that's what they do, man. They use sanctions as a weapon against people, and yeah. And this is gonna be last news for this morning's update. TASS news agency is reporting that Russian Vice Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister Novak did made a statement. Alexander Novak, Vice Prime Minister, did made statement that Russian side will try to use distance itself fully distance itself from dollar and euro in when it comes to trade of energy resources, oil and gas primarily, and maybe coal also. So in the near future, Russian side will trade oil and gas and all energy resources in national currencies. In rubles, in Chinese yuans, and other national currencies, maximally distancing itself from US dollar and euro also. And once again, this is trend, and it cannot be stopped now. And by the way, I was thinking today that maybe US, especially weakening position of US dollar in attempt to devaluate dollar and then repay all the debt that US has, and US do have more than $30 trillion of debt, so they have to pay back this money. And if they devaluate dollar, it will hit dramatically US citizens, interests of US citizens. That's for sure, because they will see not just inflation, but they will see hyperinflation, which is just devastating stuff, man. Western societies may not be familiar with high inflation or hyperinflation, but we are in former Soviet Union, citizens of former Soviet republics, and it's just, it's devastating stuff, man. And if US will lose its status as a major, main reserve currency in this world, of course, dollar will deflate dramatically, and it will cause exponential growth of inflation. Eventually, US will end up in hyperinflation, but US elites, in that case, maybe, find all those trillions to pay back, because those trillions, in that case, will worth nothing. So I'm not expert in finances, but I was thinking maybe they are specially trying to devaluate dollar, so that dollar will become just a paper, so they can print as many dollars they want. It's already too much dollars in this world, so they can pay back all the debts, all those trillions and trillions. Who knows, man. But anyway, I believe this trend towards de-dollarization is unstoppable now, and in 5 years or 10 years time, we will see probably that some other currencies will emerge in this world that will play role of main reserve currency. So yes, this is it for now. 42 minutes, too long, of course. But yet again, from tomorrow, because I will start make second updates for Patreon in the afternoon, my updates on YouTube will be much shorter, no longer than 30-35 minutes. I will definitely try to do so. So yes, this is it for now. I hope you will find this video interesting, and if so, please hit that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like, and if you can, please share links to my videos or my channel with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, Telegram, or any other platform that you are active on. It will greatly increase my chances to reach wider audience, and if you think this channel is interesting, useful, has some potential, and deserves to exist, please consider to support with small donations through PayPal or by subscribing to my Patreon page. I promise Patreon will become much more interested in the future. So this is it for now. Have a nice day and take care.